Man, this was a game that we absolutely had the chance to steal. A game that we were in all the way until the end, and a game that we probably should have won. And I know I'm biased in saying that because I am a Bucs fan, but this was a game that was up for the taking. I don't think that Detroit really took it from us per se. I think they played a very dominant game, but in the end, they also gave us many chances to come back and win it. But before I get into my reaction on this disappointing loss, I am Ramy B. If you are new here, make sure you click the subscribe button down below. I post weekly Buccaneer reaction videos, and let's get into it. So our Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost a hard-fought game to the Detroit Lions, the first divisional round game in Detroit in a billion years, most expensive divisional round tickets ever. That crowd, you know, being very loud and a difficult place to play in. The Buccaneers came in and overcame a lot of adversity in terms of penalties and the defense kind of letting up a little bit in the fourth quarter. The team was in a position where they could at least tie the game to get into overtime and potentially steal it. But overall, you know, it ended in a disappointing fashion. However, let me get into the stats. So the Buccaneers had 408 total yards of offense, 319 passing and 89 rushing, compared to the Lions, who had 391 total yards, 277 passing and 114 rushing. Baker Mayfield did not have his best game, had a great game, I would say, given the conditions. He was 26 of 41 for 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. The first pick not being his fault, being Mike Evans unable to catch the ball, tipping it in the air. The second pick, obviously his fault, where I think, you know, potentially at that time we had, I think, 1:09 left in the game, something like that, in a timeout. He was being a little greedy, trying to get big chunks instead of taking what the defense was giving him and trying to at least, you know, move the ball down the field a little bit. So overall, I don't want to bash Baker because I think over these 2 playoff games, he has been the best player on our roster and has been the most consistent. He put us in positions to win both games, and I don't think he should be criticized for it. Sure, I can talk about the season, but I'm going to do a season reaction, season review video within the next couple of weeks where I go over more of the season trends and things like that. The running game was effective. We had 89 total yards of offense on the run game. Rashad White, 9 for 55 with 6.1 yards per carry. Probably his best yards per carry all season, and Chase Edmonds 4 for 19 with 4.8 yards per carry. And I know I have been a big criticizer of us running the ball a lot, but I think this was a game where we should have probably ran the ball more. Between Rashad White and Chase Edmonds, we only had 13 carries. This wasn't a game where we were getting blown out. We tied at 17-17. The Lions went down the field and scored in like 5-6 plays, scored really quickly, and we came out 3 straight passes. I think we could have implemented the run a little bit more. Again, the game wasn't out of reach. We could have set the tempo that way. And again, use the run to complement the pass. I think we got too pass happy in this game, considering that the game was very close going into the fourth quarter, and I think probably almost halfway into the fourth quarter, it was still a very close game, and we could have implemented the run more. Receiving game, Mike Evans turned around after having horrible drops in the first quarter, finished the game with 8 catches, 147 yards, and a touchdown that kind of put us in position to potentially make a decent comeback. Before the half, he had 2 great catches, a catch and run, and then that beautiful falling catch that took us down to the 1 and gave us opportunity to tie it at a 10-10 game. 8 for 147 is great in a playoff game, and I hope that we re-sign him. We gotta figure out what those jitters were these last 2 games where he was dropping balls, but he definitely redeemed himself. Cade Otton has probably been, outside of Baker offensively, I'd say Cade Otton was probably our second best player, 5 for 65 and a touchdown. I know last week he led the team in receiving yards as well. Came alive in the playoffs for us. Godwin 4 for 40, Rashad White 4 for 36 and a touchdown. That touchdown he scored on that dump off was great. He evaded a couple tacklers, took it down and scored. Nobody else, actually Trey Palmer had 2 for 32, and I think they both came in the beginning of the game, but nobody else had over 30 yards. Again, the offense did enough to win the game. Sure, we threw a pick at the end, but I think had the defense played about average in the fourth quarter, this is a whole different game and we win that. Let's talk about the defense. So we couldn't get pressure on Jared Goff at all. Levante David had a sack, Kancey had a sack, but other than that, Jared Goff had all day to throw. And historically, this is now, I think, Jared Goff's fourth game against us, I want to say, and now he's 3-1 against us. The only loss coming in 2019 when we won that 55-40 shootout and he put up 500 yards on us. So he has, I think against us overall, he's averaged about like 400 something yards against us probably in those 4 or 5 games, and had maybe 10 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, and 5 picks. So for some reason, he has figured out Bowles' defense, and today was indicative of that. He was 30 of 43 for 287 yards and 2 touchdowns. Probably his yards per attempt were very low, but he was, you know, probably taking what the defense gives him. And obviously the middle of the field was left wide open. For some reason, we couldn't adjust to that, and he was just shredding us in the middle of the field. Gibbs, the running back, 9 for 74. Montgomery, 10 for 33. It seemed like we had a good lock on their run game up until the fourth quarter. Then they just started gashing us for chunk plays. And it doesn't help that Bowles kind of switched to a soft zone defense in the fourth quarter that left the middle of the field wide open. And obviously losing Jamel Dean hurt, but again, switching to that zone defense has continuously hurt us. We don't have the horses in the defense to play a zone game consistently. We saw that our Super Bowl year when the Saints shredded us in the regular season, and once we went more man coverage in the playoffs, we dominated. Last year against the Cowboys in the playoffs, zone, we get shredded. We're not a zone team. The receiving end, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8 for 77 and a touchdown. Laporta, 9 for 65. Gibbs, 4 for 40. Nobody else had over 40 yards, and Josh Reynolds had 2 for 27 and a touchdown. So I would say first 3 quarters, we definitely held our own defensively. It was that fourth quarter after we tied at 17-17, they shredded us that next drive. I think it was 4 or 5 plays that they covered 60, 70, maybe 80 yards and scored. And then I think we went 3 and out, and then they rushed down the field again and scored and made it a 2-score game. I do want to talk about a couple things. We had that missed field goal in the second quarter that I wouldn't say won us the game, but would have prevented us from going for 2 in that situation, because we wouldn't have needed to, and it would have made the game a lot closer. But the big thing is that going for 2, I kind of understand the logic where they say, you go for 2, make it a 6-point game, and then you just score a touchdown, kick the extra point, and win. I've never liked that, because I feel like going for 2 is hard as it is, and I think they said kicking 2 extra points in a game is like 95% chance, and McLaughlin has been very accurate. So I think going for 2, the issue is if you don't get it, now you have to score and have to get the 2, which is already hard to get. I would rather, if you want to win the game, just take the extra point, and then when you come back and score again, then go for 2, all or nothing right in that moment. So I think it's a very risky chance, and it's uncharacteristic of Bowles to do something that aggressive, And I get it's the playoffs, but I feel like in that moment when we went for 2, I was like, please, let's not go for 2. And we did, and it didn't work out. And sure, it was questionable whether it was a flag on the defense or whatnot, but we should have just kicked the extra point, made it a 7-point game. So overall, the Buccaneers finished the season 10-9. Again, I'm upset that we lost, but I can't be mad or very disappointed, mostly because I think Vegas had us at 4.5 wins for the season. We had 70 to 80 million in dead cap space. We started the most rookies in the NFL. Our D-line has 2 rookies. I think that the odds were stacked against us, and then halfway through the season we were 4-7 at one point. And then we ended up rattling off 6 out of 8 wins, so including this loss and the loss against the Saints. So we won 6 out of 8 games. We definitely overachieved. I think playing the Eagles was the best option. I know they were imploding, but I think sometimes you need a game like that to give your team the confidence. And today we played with confidence. Had we won, do I think we could have taken San Francisco? I think we had a legitimate shot, but we have some holes that we need to fix up. The defense needs to be solidified a little bit. Devin White is probably gone. There's a lot of changes that are going to be coming, but I think the future is looking bright. I still don't think Todd Bowles is the answer long term. But I know they're 99.999% not going to replace him, and that's fine. So I won't be too mad if we keep him. I understand it, but I don't think he's the answer long term. I think Baker has proven himself to be a quarterback that deserves a contract. Maybe not the $40 million range, but 25 to 30 maybe. He has not been a liability. He hasn't been the answer. He hasn't been the problem. But when we've needed him to step up, he has stepped up in the playoffs and things like that. So yeah, comment down below, Bucs Nation, what you thought of this loss. I know it was hard, but again, it was a game we probably shouldn't have been in considering where we were all season and the odds that were stacked against us. So next year we clear up the cap space, we can start re-signing some players, building up the roster a little bit, and hopefully make a better run. But yeah, Bucs Nation, thank you for tuning in. Oh, I also want to say in the next couple of weeks, I will be making a season review video where I go over the season stats on players for the season, trends, coaching, my feelings and opinions about coaching. But yeah, Bucs Nation, thank you for tuning in. And as always, let's go Bucs. And I'll see you in a few weeks. And let's enjoy this off season, build up, and hopefully come back stronger next year. So yeah, thank you. And as always, I am out.
Let's go! You a Buccaneer fan, let me know.